31st of January, Wednesday. -1 degree Celsius. Overcast. Calm.
Gábor Stéló,
35-year-old evangelical pastor. In the autumn of 1944, with the support of the International Red Cross and the assistance of the Good Shepherd Mission Organization, he established 32 orphanages for persecuted people in just a few weeks. Location: Laurentfi Street, District 2, Buda.
My wife arrived with the first group, accompanied by about 15 boys. Their means of transport were several hastily assembled sleds, one of which had a door attached to it to increase the loading surface. It was a peculiar caravan: mattresses, carpets, blankets everywhere, and on top of the most heavily laden sled, beaming with joy, sat our little girl, Ildiko. The emaciated, dirty, muddy children, laughing, shouting, and romping in the snow, pulled and dragged this strange caravan. It was a humorous and at the same time heartbreaking sight. The children were glad that they could finally be above ground. The hide-and-seek was over. They covered the relatively short distance in more than an hour and a half, but they were forced to take detours because of the military parade. Cars and knocked-out tanks blocked the roads. The overloaded sleds got stuck in the deep snow. They had to unload several times and carry some of the things by hand. Under the snow lay frozen corpses. The children watched them with great curiosity. One of them said that he liked a dead man's boots and wanted to pull them off, but when the leg also came off the body, when he touched the boot, he left it. They saw people chopping up a dead horse with axes and saws, hoping that they might get some horse steak. 8 to 10-year-old children experienced all this.
Ferenc Zsindei,
Lawyer, writer, former minister, District 12, Buda. After lunch today, someone came over from the kitchen for me, that I should call on Her Excellency, the military commander, immediately. She had a cigarette dangling from her mouth and was swinging Borka's sister's swaddled baby with all her might. But she did it so zealously and clumsily that all the women in the kitchen were flitting around her with outstretched arms, like so many guardian angels, hoping they could perhaps catch the baby, shaken out of its swaddling clothes, before it hit the kitchen floor. Her Excellency was dead drunk. I have rarely seen a more repulsive sight than this. Her flabby face, lipstick smeared on her mouth rattled on like a clapper. She was on the same old song again, hand over the little pistol. Several times I repeated to her that I no longer had any kind of pistol, but she just insisted. The officer had reported to the captain that I had a small pistol, and if I did, then they would go bang, 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 with me and all my household. I let her just talk. The interpreter also signaled he had grown tired of the fruitless wrangling and did not interpret anything. During the day, a few stray groups of Russians looking for lodging would come in, but they left without any trouble. And at night, no one came. At 5 in the morning, the cook roused the house for Elimer to take down breakfast for him to the front. Dinner, he said, would be taken down by Dotsi. It's interesting that these Russians, although they are constantly thinking about who is working and whether it is enough, themselves are doing nothing else but trying to get out of work. The citizens of the workers' state obviously do not like work, and in this they are no different from the idlers of the capitalist world. On the contrary, our women clean up after them, cook, wash, sew. They even have to peel the potatoes that the Russkies steal from us. Yesterday, they politely asked for half a sack. They have plenty, of course, but the supply is disrupted because of the snowdrift. Then today, they took 2 sacks by brute force. We are frantically hiding the rest. Clary managed to bargain 4 loaves of bread from them in exchange. They've already used up all our firewood, too. They are incredibly wasteful in this regard as well. We could have easily made it through until spring with the wood that they burned up in just over a week. I don't even understand how they could have achieved this peak performance. It's almost good that every hour has its own urgent and vitally important task, so one hardly gets a chance to think. Human wisdom, will, and foresight. In that one respect, the efforts of the successive Hungarian governments were essentially the same: not to get involved in the war, to preserve the small Hungarian army as intact as possible, and to safeguard the unity of the nation as much as possible. This is why Paul Teleki committed suicide, and the prime ministers who followed him also largely tried to adhere to this set goal amid the changing circumstances. And the result? All the curses we feared from the beginning have befallen us. The country has become a battlefield. Germans and Russians are fighting on it, each destroying our meager national assets and exterminating the Hungarians. But we have not yet been engaged in a fratricidal war. However, despite all efforts, we cannot escape any part of the horror that so frightened me in the fate of Italy. We must drink the cup to the dregs.